It will be about the vision and how the potential of machine learning and artificial intelligence has been realized in the company, in this company. So we will start from first presentation, how artificial intelligence will impact the role of the FP&A. And we have Matthias Thurner, Chief Technology Officer at Unit4 Prevero. We will do this presentation as Q&A, as interview, if you don't mind. Matthias, you are known as a visionary.
I'm happy with that. That's perfect.
Fantastic. Matthias, welcome to the show. Welcome to the webinar. You're well known as a visionary in this area. You've been doing and thinking about this for some time, and you already started to realize some projects in your company for artificial intelligence and machine learning. When we met in London recently, I think it was in September this year, you said that actually with the latest advancements in artificial intelligence and machine learning, the way how we do FP&A, the way how we plan and forecast, it's really going to change. It's going to change forever. But this is the new term for many people. So please, can you kindly remind us the definition and the key concepts of artificial intelligence and in particular machine learning?
Of course. Well, so thanks very much for having me. Yeah, artificial intelligence actually is all about machines behaving like human beings. So that's the basic idea. And it has become such a big topic in the last, let's say, 2 years, mainly because the computing power has been increasing so significantly over the last decade that it became possible to make use of artificial intelligence in everyday products and in everyday life. And the core of it all is machine learning. So machine learning is the basis for a lot of robotics applications. It's the basis for language processing, for image recognition, for credit checks, actually for a number of systems that probably all of us are using in everyday life. The topic itself is relatively old, so it's been around since about 50 years, and I can still remember when I was fascinated by it, dealing with it in the first time in the 90s. But at that time, the computing power was not available. And so in these 50 years that it's there have been more than 14 different approaches being developed by the community, by the science community. There are more than 10 different frameworks, software frameworks that are heavily used by the community. And there are more than 50 algorithms. You can see some of the approaches on the right-hand side of the slide. The most interesting one from my perspective is deep learning, because it's a very promising one. When we go to the next slide, we can also see what the situation is in the office of the CFO, and I think that's relating to the next question, Larissa.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest challenges and worries in our profession at the moment, what is going to happen with all these advancements in technology? Are we going to have our job tomorrow? Is it going to be really up to machines to do our job? You know, how the role of CFO and FP&A is going to be influenced and already influenced by those technologies, Matthias?
Yeah, I think there will be a big influence. And if you look at the situation that you find today in many offices of the CFO or FP&A departments, there is a number of things. So the first one is that our customers keep telling us that there is a higher number and increasing frequency of requests that the FP&A departments have to deal with. Second, the data volumes are becoming bigger and bigger. So you have big data pools externally that you can use, and you can have also bigger and bigger data pools internally that you can source. The questions also tend to become more complex. So there are still a lot of simpler questions, but there are also increasingly complex questions and also new complex requirements that you're facing. Let's take IFRS 16, for example. Nevertheless, what everybody expects from you is that you respond very fast. So personally, when I look back 3 years, it was perfectly okay to answer an email on the next day. If you look at it today, some people start chasing you if you do not answer within a few hours. So that's definitely changed. And of course, all of this, so answering more questions which are more complex, where you need more data in order to do it in a faster time, you should do with exactly the same set of resources, or maybe even less resources than in the past. And if you put this together, I think that's a really tough job. And it's only possible to really cope with it if you have powerful corporate performance management software features in place. And this includes classic features, classic software features, like you all know, analytics features, reporting features, and so on, but also AI-based features. And let's have a look at the next slide, because it shows very well what AI can do for you and what the impact of AI on the FP&A department or the office of the CFO will be. So AI can do a number of things for you. In the first place, it can do some work for you. So it can give you time and space by taking over some of your tasks. Then it can also do quality checks for you. And it can give you high quality inputs for certain topics, maybe even higher quality than you would be able to achieve by yourself. And if you put these three together, then the result is that you can, by the help of AI, do more. You will also have more time for human tasks, for tasks that only you as a human being can do and that are typically high value adding. And you will also produce results of a higher quality. So I do not believe that artificial intelligence will really change the basic role of the CFO or of an FP&A department. The role will stay the same. So you will stay the business partner for your companies. But I think that AI will become a game changer in terms of speed and quality. And if you want to remain competitive as a company and also competitive as an FP&A department, you will have to use it.
Thank you, Matthias. Definitely artificial intelligence and human intelligence are going to work together. And probably this is the timing when all these non-value adding tasks that are so boring and that are resulting in losing the best talent in FP&A, actually we will have machines to help us with those automatic tasks, and it will increase the potential of human intelligence in FP&A. Obviously, there are a lot of developments at the moment happening in this field. I remember only 2 years ago at one of the conferences in London, a representative of a big organization was talking about operational usage of artificial intelligence, voice recognition, word recognition, automation, and so on and so forth. But when I asked the question, what is happening in FP&A? So what do they use for FP&A at the moment? He just answered Excel. But the reality is that it's already started to happen in more companies, and I definitely see those case studies around the globe. So please, would you like to share your experience of what is happening in this field, in particular in your company, Matthias?
Yeah, well, I think it's a really exciting topic because there's so interesting use cases. So the 4 most interesting ones that we see at the moment are the digital assistant, then the topic of automated analytics, the topic of automated data entry checks, and the topic of automated forecasts. And let's have a look at the digital assistant topic first. Probably you all work, or at least you all know Cortana, Siri, Alexa, and so on. Well, there is also a digital assistant that has been introduced by Unit4. The name of it is Wanda. And Wanda will be an example of how you can communicate with your FP&A system, not only via a visual user interface, but also via natural speech. And a little dialogue is shown here. So let's say we just want to know what the turnover last month has been, and we ask Wanda for giving us information, and Wanda would answer, well, the turnover last month was 56 million, and this was 10% under budget. Wow, we would say that's not really good. So that's actually a topic where I would like to dig a little bit deeper. So Wanda, could you please send me a report showing the turnover and the delta between budget and actual per region? And Wanda would say, yes, it's already on its way. And I would maybe also add, please send it to Mike and Tom, two colleagues of mine, who will also be really interested in that. This is just one of many possible dialogues. So it would also be possible to dig in deeper together with Wanda and say, well, Wanda, let's have a look at the different regions together, and let's see if there is a specific region causing this problem. I think it's a very good example showing you how AI can save you time, because a lot of these simpler questions that we have just been talking about before, when we looked at the state of the office of the CFO, can be answered by a digital assistant in the future. So the time that you would need to answer these questions will be taken away from you, and you will get time instead that you can focus on other tasks. So it will be a big time saver. And actually, there are also situations where even users who are used to use the visual interface might prefer to use the digital assistant, for example, when you're sitting in a car. The next use case is about automated analytics. I guess you're all familiar with the concept of exception reporting. So what you can see here is a map which shows a typical exception report telling you that something's wrong here in the UK. In this example, it's a not-for-profit organization, and the red color tells us that the funds raised have been way below what we have been expecting to raise. Now, by using classic functionality in your FP&A system, now you would start to do a manual analysis, drill down, slice and dice a little bit in order to find out where this delta really comes from. The idea about automated analytics is that the system already gives you this information. So the system already performs the analysis for you and gives you the result. In this case, the system will tell you, well, there is a problem in the UK, and 80% of the deviation was caused by government donations in the Plant the Tree campaign. And well, of course, there are still steps in the process where the human part is involved, and that would be the next step where you might ask Jeff, your colleague who is responsible for government donations, and ask him what happened. And maybe he would come back and say, well, don't worry, no problem. They just had a problem with the IT systems on the government side, so we didn't get notice, and we also didn't get the funds, but we will get them next week and everything's fine. When you think about the value that something like this can give you, I think a good way to do it is just think about what it would be like having an additional team of, let's say, 5 people doing nothing else than analyzing deltas in your data all day. And I would be pretty sure that they would come up with really interesting insights. Now you can afford this because you don't have to hire an additional team, but you can use virtual colleagues here in order to do the analysis and to come up with the insights that will be of value for your business. The next use case is about a topic that we all know. It's actually budgeting, and I never met anybody who really likes budgeting. Actually, I don't like to do it myself either. I know it makes sense, it's reasonable, and it's important for deciding on how we want to invest our resources in the next year, but it's not really fun to do it. And well, if you have to do something which you don't really like to do, what are you doing? Well, you're doing it as fast as possible. And that's what happens if you have a decentralized budgeting process. And if you do things as fast as possible, you make mistakes. So maybe you enter the right number, but in the wrong row, or you mistype and you have 1 0 too many or 1 0 too less. The result might be a mistake which will really impact the quality of the budget at the end. And of course, you can use classic functionality to try to do checksums, and for example, to say if anybody enters a value that is more than 20% above the last year's value, then some alert should pop up. That's possible, but you would have to do all this manually, and you would also not cover all the cases, because a value which is 20% more than the year before might be absolutely okay, depending on the context. So what AI can do for you here is that for every value entered, and that's what you see in this example, it would give you immediate feedback without having to define any rules or whatsoever about the entered value. And in this case, the system would say, hey, this value seems to be too high regarding the historical and the context data. So please check if there is a mistake or not. I think if you use functionality like this will definitely help you to improve the quality of your budget and also the quality of decisions. And last but not least, we also have artificial intelligence as a basis for forecasting. And that's relating very well to the user story or reference story that we will have in the second presentation. Automated forecasts based on AI can take away the hassle from you to use, for example, statistical functions. So today, a lot of forecasts are done manually or using statistical functions. And the problem with statistical functions is that you really have to know which function to use. And also you have to know how to parameterize it. And that's not so easy if you're not a statistics expert. And I think most of you aren't. So what we did is we use machine learning, especially deep learning, for creating automated forecasts. And we were really surprised by the quality of the results ourselves. So of course we were hoping that this would be something that would work. But if you look at this little example that you can see here on the screen, with a very limited number of historical data, the deep learning already gives us a very reasonable forecast. So the blue line are the actuals, and the dotted orange line are the forecasted values. And you can see very well that the deep learning picked up the monthly pattern that you can see here. It also recognized that the peaks between the spaces between the peaks are decreasing, and it also analyzed that there is an overall decreasing way of trend that you can see there. To produce this result with statistical functions is really difficult. With deep learning, it's quite simple because the only thing you have to do is to press a button. And actually what we did is we already tried out a lot of different use cases and historical time series, and the results that we got were typically significantly better than the results that you would get by using statistical features. Well, the cool thing is that the stuff that I've been talking about, these use cases, are not only ideas or visions. A part of this already is true. So we just released this AI-based forecasting in July of this year, and also a first version of the data entry checks. So it's stuff that you can really use and that can help you to produce better quality of data, and at the end, as I already said, better decisions. And if we look at this automated forecasting, the input that the AI system can give you here is definitely an input which is of better quality. So it definitely gives you a better overall forecast result if you add your own information and flavor to it at the end.
Matthias, thank you for sharing your experience with us. It's amazing to see that it's been used already for different cases, from operational FP&A to more strategic FP&A. The cases that I see around the globe, they actually around automated forecasting. For example, last week at Artificial Intelligence Machine Learning Committee, we looked at the Microsoft case. Amazing results, everybody actually saying that the quality is increasing. But the biggest question is, if machine is producing this forecast for you, how human beings, how CFOs and finance directors and directors of business units can trust this forecast, how they can own this forecast, which is produced not by human intelligence, but by artificial intelligence. So this is one of the biggest problems at the moment. So how would you answer this question?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Larissa. I think it's possible. So I think you can own a forecast which has been produced with AI input. And there are three reasons for that. So the first one is that even if you use deep learning for forecasting, deep learning cannot give you a real explanation what exactly the reasoning was behind the forecast. But what it can give you is it can show you an impact map where you can see which drivers, which factors had a huge or significant negative or positive impact. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you would try out AI-based forecasting over time iteratively. And if you have seen 4 times or 5 times in a row that the result that is produced by it is a really good one, then you would start to gain trust in it. And last but not least, the AI-based forecasting is not meant to be something prescriptive. So it's meant to be a high-value input that you can still change. And there might be some qualitative information which is not part of the forecasting model that you might have as a human being that you can, of course, add and still change the suggestion that AI has been giving you. And if you put this together, I think it's possible very well to own a forecast, even if it has been produced at the beginning with some AI input.
Excellent. So this is the suggestion, not the prescription. In reality, people still can own this. But another direction that we observe in artificial intelligence machine learning for FP&A at the moment, this is the help to identify these key drivers, those 20% of drivers that can describe up to 80% of our results, those drivers that can be the basis for our driver-based model. So my question is how we can use artificial intelligence, in particular machine learning, in order to identify those most sensitive drivers, Matthias. So would you like to share this information with us if you started to do this?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it's relatively easy to find out if some information or something is a driver or not. Because you can pick a potential driver, you can apply the data relating to it to your AI model, and then the model will give you information about the forecast quality resulting of it. So if the forecast quality significantly increases by this added data, then you have found a driver. And if it doesn't, you haven't. And so that's the first step where AI can already help you to identify if there is a driver or not. And the whole process of trying out different potential drivers can also be automated. So that's the two ways that AI can help you to find out what a proper driver-based model for your business might be.
Thank you, Matthias. And the final question to you. We're all almost at the end of year 2018. And this is the time for us to talk about the trends and what the next year or the next couple of years are going to bring us. So in your view, what are the top trends in the area of artificial intelligence for FP&A we should observe in the upcoming years or in the year 2019? What is your view on this?
Mm-hmm. Well, what I see is that there is a lot of production use already going on of Generation 1 applications. And with Generation 1 applications, I mean applications which are using one component of artificial intelligence. So an example would be this deep learning-based forecasting. Or an example is also the image recognition that you can use on the new iPhone, which recognizes your face and then gives you access to the system. There is already some tryout about Generation 2 applications. Generation 2 applications are actually combining more than one component of artificial intelligence. Actually, the slide that we have been seeing before is a good example for it, because we have been seeing that AI can help you to check if a driver is existing or if something is a driver. So that would be one component of AI. And the second component would be to do this automated process, walking through different potential drivers and trying them out. So it would be a meta layer. And this is coming up at the moment for many use cases. So that's the generation 2. There's a lot of tryout. I think there are not too many productive yet. And well, in the medium term, I think there will be a lot of interesting things coming up where, to be honest, it's really difficult to really look into the future and to give any prognosis in an exact timeline. But I'm pretty sure that there will be a lot of interesting and fascinating additional value that we can create by using artificial intelligence, also in FP&A in the future. And I also know that there is fear by a number of people because they might think that AI is taking work away from them in a negative sense, which I don't believe, because I think AI is not taking away our jobs. It just enables us to do our jobs in a better way. So it gives us more time for the high value add human tasks that we can focus on, and it takes away the repetitive stuff from us. So that's my thinking about the future of AI usage.
Matthias, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.